the Colorado line all the way to the high country.
There's just my bears.
My mom's not good. You're rolling. Here we are, whether you are or not. Okay. Welcome, everybody. It's a regular city council meeting, September 28th, 7 p.m. All are present with Dave Johnson and Logan Monson calling in digitally. Welcome, guys. Can we hear and can you hear and can we hear both of you?
I can hear you.
Okay, we're good. We'll begin with prayer by myself, followed by the pledge. Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for the opportunity we have of self-governance and working together as citizens to make a great community here. And we pray for thy blessings to attend us so we can go with inspiration and each other's thoughts and ideas as we plan for the future, and that we can be contemplative and respectful at all times. We're thankful for the rains which have come and pray that the rain and the snow will continue, that we'll have an abundance and be able to thrive here in the land of the city. In the name of Jesus Christ.
I pledge allegiance to your flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You. Council had a chance to review the agenda and minutes. Any corrections or comments this time?
Make a motion that we approve the city council meeting minutes from Tuesday, September 14th, 2021, and the agenda for today's meeting.
So, Hours and Turk, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to assume, unless Logan pipes up specifically, that he's also aye, so that's unanimous. Any specific declaration of conflict? I doubt it with the agenda as I'm seeing it. Hearing none, we'll move on. Is there anybody wishing to address council in open forum on any issue? We'd be glad to listen to you if you so desire. Seeing none, move right into reports, of which I have none. Any other member of council have anything particular to report? I guess, well, is anybody going to give an overview or thoughts or feelings on the big, I didn't make it to the big thing on Saturday, but any comments relative to that?
I went. I think it was time well spent.
I've heard a lot of really, really good stuff about it. I got involved in a big project at home and all of a sudden it was 8:30. I went, oh.
I attended and had a booth, and I still feel like the traffic was probably a lot lighter over where the craft booths were than where the food booths were, but I still think we can work on that a little bit. But other than that, I thought it was excellent. I don't know how, like we did the bubbles one year and now we did huge, how do we surprise people again next year? That's what I can't wait for, because that was a great surprise. It was tremendous. There was a lot of people there and a ton of people had tons of fun. So great job, Pratt.
You get a lot out of
And
it.
recreation.
No, that's the only, I think that's how I'll surprise people next year, is getting another 500 people from the county that didn't come, but
There was a lot of people who were here for homecoming, I think, and got to
yeah, I mean,
attend.
there was that crowd.
That's
Yeah,
good.
that worked out nicely.
Hey, any other comments on that? I've heard nothing but really good things about it. So, city manager report. Dave, you there?
Yes. So you have kind of the project status there. The only thing I wanted to bring to your attention is the discussion that we had about the shade structure and if we bought it and assembled it ourselves. Well, we've looked into it and we're still trying to get pricing, but it seems that the footings that are needed for that, it's going to take a lot more work than our crews can do. And so we need to look at what it would cost for a contractor to do. Excuse me, we still assume it'll be cheaper than having the company themselves coming down and doing it, 'cause they don't have to pay for mobilization. However, I don't know that the savings will probably be as much as what we're anticipating. So staff's still looking into that, and that's why those savings were not brought to you as a discussion item yet, because we don't know yet what those savings will be, and when we do, we'll bring that to you. So also not in the status report, I just got an email. Sorry if there's an echo there. That the $40,000 from the state to do preliminary engineering at looking at our deep well. We have now been awarded by the state. There's no commitment related to that. That's just something that they're awarding us to do preliminary engineering here. So.
Okay, well, we knew that was coming, but now it's just official, right?
Correct, yep. And now everything related to that project is just, we've done everything that we need to do up to this point to be updated.
In regards to the pickleball courts, I had some residents who have been interested in pickleball courts for a long time send me pictures of, David, a pickleball court that could be painted onto the current tennis courts and dual use. And I think we've seen, didn't we look at those at one time? So that these fields down here could be used as both tennis and pickleball courts.
No, we just converted 2 pickleball courts inside the wellness center.
Okay.
We didn't do anything or look at the ones here. I mean, yeah, it'd be easy, an easy,
Yeah, I don't,
an
it
easy
looks,
do.
I don't want to
I know
interrupt
that-
what the high school's doing, but it looks to me like it could be a dual purpose. And that
we
would
talked about
make
that,
them
we
happy.
also talked about getting rid of that sand volleyball court, which is a nuisance, and making that pickleball. And so
Which
we
would
never
be
did
better,
follow through with- yeah,
but more
would be way
expensive.
more- Everything, all the ideas I have are expensive.
Anyway, I'll forward those pictures to you and to David, and we can see if it's something could be doable in a cheap budget. So I think it could be.
So on that note, Pratt will, well, I don't know if Pratt's highlighting tonight, so I don't want to steal too much thunder, but we're about ready to put out RFP for the Parks and Trails and Open Space Master Plan, and that would be something that they would evaluate in that plan as well.
You broke up a little bit. That was the
I got it.
RFP trail.
Any other comments? Okay, thanks, Dave. Finance report, Kim Palmer.
Finance report for the month of August is in your packet. Do you have any specific questions about that or anything on the invoice register?
Once again, everything that you would look at and go, oh, that seems odd. You've got almost invariably a little explanation out there that clarifies it right up front. So I really appreciate that.
Good job.
Okay, good. Rec report, David Palmer. There's too many days.
We got that one together a month ago. And then I went to my rec conference and didn't get the report. So all that's old news to me now. But, any questions on it? I'm already working on it.
Well, I thought I had one when I was reviewing it earlier today, and then I realized what my own answer was, so I'm good.
I just came from some football games tonight, the flag football games. It's their last week. And we're just getting into the middle of our tackle season and things are going really well.
That we did have a huge drop in flag football numbers, or were some added to these on this report?
We didn't do tackle last year. So if you look at the total numbers.
Okay, so just a lot more got involved in that. Okay, gotcha. Any other questions for David?
Any answers for me?
Any answers?
Nope. We won't spend any more money on rec this year. Just kidding.
One thing, sorry, to add for what David has. David, I don't know if you mentioned, just the work that's being done in front of City Hall. David is kind of helping oversee that.
And somebody stole our lawn, did you see that?
I noticed that when finally.
And so in a couple weeks, we'll have USU helping us landscape all of that through a grant.
Okay, well, it's looking good right now. Like we're making progress on it. Okay, the meat of the reports here, UMs. The carbon-free power project.
Looks like we've got the slides in the packet, so.
Yep.
I don't know if you've had a chance to look at those, if Brad can pull it up. I think probably mayor and council would prefer the quick and dirty versus the long.
Yep.
Is that correct? Okay, next slide, Brad. These are just some slides that Jackie at UAMPS provided.
Get it down there.
Oh, it's down here. Sorry.
There you go. Okay, so we did that resolution here a month ago on a revolving credit agreement with Bank of America. That thing's done, and we're spending money on it. Let's go to the next one, Pratt. So on the EPC and OEM term sheets, EPC is engineering procurement for construction, and then so CFPP, New Scale and Floor have a term sheet to pursue the CFPP. And this aligns with all of the existing development agreements that are already in place, and it commits all the parties to negotiate in good faith towards agreements to set up a controlled process to move forward with the project. And it has been executed by Floor and New Scale. Let's move one more, Brad. So the work that's going on currently, task order 3 was that class 3 project cost estimate, which was completed back in August. Task order 4 is the combined licensing application, the final notice to process, and that was approved by the project management committee on the 20th of August. So that allows the core boring to move forward. Let's go to the next one. So improvements are being made on the site on the T11 road. There's been some minimal work done for about a mile on the gravel, just to facilitate getting core boring and well drilling rigs in there. Let's go to the next one, Pratt. So they did a little more mowing up there, which is kind of required as part of the work. And then they've got an office trailer now, generators, support facilities have been installed.
I thought it was interesting that they've got these buffer zones for sagebrush areas. I'm like, are they really worried about sagebrush in the Western United States? Because there's a lot of it.
It seems like I heard the
Hundreds of millions of
there
acres
may
of
be a sage
sagebrush.
grouse or something up there. I think that's what all this mowing is, so you don't end up with something nesting where we don't want them nesting.
Okay.
So kind of remove the habitat, and then they'll find somewhere else to park their eggs, I guess.
There's plenty of room. Yeah.
Yeah, so trail rigs have been mobilized, and these next slides kind of just go through that, but I don't totally understand. You've got multiple contractors with Rizzo, Atlas, and Cascade that are up there working, and they're doing core boring, which is where they pull out samples of the rock, and then they're doing monitoring wells. Let's go to the next slide, Pratt. Just these slides are kind of showing 35 to 45 personnel up there, and they'll drill all those holes, and basically most of this work should be wrapping up by the end of November, just into December, and then they'll do high resolution seismic reflection surveys, and those are kind of like the seismic surveys that we did back when we drilled our deep wells, but again, it's just identifying faults and anomalies and stuff in the bedrock on the actual site. Let's go to the next one. So the combined licensing application, that's kind of been kicked off, and we're moving forward with that. Nuclear Regulatory Commission will have visitors to the site sometime in October, likely to observe the drilling that's going on there. I don't understand exactly why they collect so much meteorological data, but they do, and that's important to a nuclear power plant site. For the combined licensing application. So that'll be restarting in October. And then
Well, it has to date back to when these plants were 50 times this size and had all kinds of risk factors, which that's ancient history.
Yep. So let's go to the next one, Pratt. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. If there's any questions, I don't want you to feel rushed, but this last slide is just, a subscription for the project. So Grant PUD, they're kind of the ones who've been moving forward. They're the first to sign a letter of intent, and they're going through the due diligence process. And if you remember, we went through that process for years to get comfortable with where we're at. And so it's frustrating that we don't have some of these guys, already subscribed to the project, because we want to see that risk go away and know that we have them. But anyway, it's moving along pretty good.
Where is Grant County?
It's Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon. I'm not 100%.
And Clark is Nevada?
No, it's also up there.
Oh.
Yeah. And then so's T, and then the slice customers are Bonneville Power Association, which is, Oregon, Idaho. It's also, so most of the potential subscribers are that way, with the exception of a couple in Arizona. So, yeah. And then Pacific PUD, they're looking at signing a letter of intent. These others have all signed a letter of intent already and are moving forward somewhere along in doing their own due diligence process. So the subscription's going along pretty well. Any questions? Okay, well, we just want to kind of keep you updated on that project. So thank you.
Sure, thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
Terry.
you.
Okay, moving on, Economic Development Visitor Center update. This is exciting looking stuff, right?
Yeah, it's always something exciting on my end when I'm here. Hopefully you guys don't mind the lack of color. Keep it
So I was
simple.
thinking it was gonna be blue and red or something, and then out here.
No, I figured if it was
Severely
printing in
disappointed.
black and white, we'd keep it simple. So just a quick update on just some of the grant funding we've received and where that's at throughout the year. Thrive 25, the mayors who found that grant or was at least informed about it, and we were able to get that. That went right up and was easily used for the Independence Day celebration. Didn't last. We know that's a big budget, so it didn't trickle down to any other events. That's been reported. I sent them in the invoice and everything, so it's.
Does that one continue, or was that a one-shot deal?
It's a one-shot deal. I don't know if they'll do another one
I
next
couldn't
year or
remember
not.
when
but
I stumbled across it.
Yeah, I had to send a report in and close it out, but they haven't said anything back, so I'm guessing no news is good news on my end. The FIG Trails Program Grant, that was the OHV Trail related grant. We received just shy of $50,000. That's some of the things that come with it. They just came down and finished the final recordings. So last weekend I was out in Arch Canyon and River House Ruins with them, and they had a couple from Richfield come, and they do kind of just intros and outros, and they interviewed some people from town. And so they're finalizing all that content. It'll run through the winter, and that Leisure does that on, I can't remember now that I've got to tell you, I believe it's Fox on Saturday nights and Sunday morning. They run the same program that evening and morning. And so we'll eventually be on that, and I'll let you know when we have that dates. And then the nice thing is we'll get the content that they filmed for us to show people. And let's see if this will work. This is kind of what you get when we do the trail recordings. So this was out on Recapture Rim. And so it just allows you to see what you're getting into, before you go out there and ride, but it allows you just to, follow it, and you can see the trail before you ride it. So that's a really nice feature for people, especially if you're driving down to San Juan County from northern Utah, and you don't want to run into something that you're uncomfortable with. This allows people to, hover over and scroll and see things. So all three of the trails that we did will have this, and to see this, you just go to Google View, you hold the little yellow guy, and it'll tell you if the trail's uploaded or not. So it's open to anyone in the public.
Nice.
So that's really nice. And then the Utah Office of Tourism does a grant cycle every year. And we use matching funds from a previously, you have to have a budget that's been implemented already. So when you guys approved the budget in July, then I'm able to go out and apply for this grant. And I was able to get $8,200 of additional marketing funds for Visit Blanding. So that's really nice. And you can see it almost doubles that budget. So makes a big difference. And you do interviews and different things of that nature, and they grade you on your ability to report that money and track where it goes and how much it brings back to the city. So I'll have to finish that out, but that's most of the winter will be spent building out that part of the grant that I said we would do, and works out really well. So, and then that's every year. So moving forward, hopefully that number will continue to increase on our end. So. Visitor center update. So one of the things we wanted to go over, we made the big changes and just kind of an idea of where we were in 2020 with COVID numbers. You can see those numbers are, way down, and especially compared to 2018, 2019. But it's bounced back a little bit. As you can see, the orange is this current year. We've got a bounce back of visitation. It's not quite as high as 2019, but it's good to see things increasing. And
are you reporting visitation the same way that you were in 2018?
Yeah, same mechanism with the staff there. So 2018 was a record year for the entire state. So that's not crazy that it was, that high, but we want to be back closer to 2019 because that's, I think, more of a realistic number for
The other thing that plays in there, more and more, the further down the digital path we go, the more people have they're completely lined out. They have an itinerary, they know what they're doing. And so these on-site visitor centers aren't used in the same way, and they're used less probably. And that's part of why we've been wanting to revamp ours to target that demographic in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think we're doing a good job of moving there, as shown on the next slide.
Yeah, and so that's what's the most interesting is we look at that next slide. And the goal that we wanted was to increase, revenue, or at least decrease the cost. And we've had 4 record months in a row. August was about the same, and then we haven't closed out September, but it's 1 year. You could look at it how you want, but I think there's definitely correlation there that people are spending a little more time in the facility using their phones, working for an hour or two, and then kind of as a reward, I'm guessing they're spending money and paying it forward. So it's been a benefit to us to have that. The staff's been really good about those changes in the timetable and the understanding there. So grateful for them and that, the ability to see that some things do take time, but it's been really nice to see that revenue. I mean, it's not like kind of better. It is, you see the visitations down, it's been phenomenal in terms of revenue. So it's been really good. And it'll be interesting to see if it continues, this time next year. Hopefully we'll continue to see that where it's as close, if not higher, as 2018 and 2019. So, and the difference, you can see this is just, it's per person, so it's broken down. I mean, obviously each person's not spending $2, but the spend is a lot higher. Again, that visitation's down, but yet the spend's a lot higher. And so we are hitting the goals that we had hoped to hit with
And
that.
that's spend at the visitor center.
That is just
So
the
we
visitor
assume
center,
that
but-
we can assume that correlates possibly into the city as well.
I was just gonna say the room tax is obviously up from last year and looks like it's pretty close to what it normally is. It's still down a little bit. And then, of course, our sales tax is up. So I'm assuming that these people that are hanging out are probably, even if they're not spending money at the visitor center, they're crossing the street to Maverick, or I guess you got to cross the street to the patio or walk around the side there to Maverick. I'm sure they're spending more money. It looks like it.
And traditionally, national travelers, regional travelers haven't been big spenders either. And that seems to be the case this year because we're not getting international travel. But at least if it's stimulus money, at least they're spending it in a great way in a small community. So you can look at it a couple different ways, but the best way to look at it is we're making more money and closing in on some of those debt numbers. So that's really nice.
Well, and
So-
again, I think, sorry, Logan. I think that we have awesome people working at the visitor center, and those visitors want to pay them, and we don't take tips. We, like,
Yeah.
they do a really good job, and the way that they can pay it forward is just what you said. And so by staffing high quality people, there is a definite economic benefit to the city.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add is not only the benefit to the cells at the visitor center itself, but one of the things that the council directed us to do when I first got here was to help what's going on in the visitor center drive people within the community to spend more. And from what we can tell, that seems to be very much the case. And to capitalize on what you were saying, Councilmember Perkins, is I think that our staff is what's key. We simplified things at the visitor center, but the real information comes from our staff and people spending time in the visitor center to glean that kind of more personalized information from them. And you can see the value demonstrated in the revenues.
So one of the things, that was obviously the concern of, taking 10 to 15 displays and turning that into more like 8 or 9 displays was what would we display? And when I went down the other day, I was looking, and there's 2 or 3 displays that we'll never use again. They were, different colors, different, things that people brought in and things of that nature that just don't really match with, what you can see there. Everything's the same color of wood. They're the same displays. They're nice. They're well thought out. And the staff chose what they wanted. So we put that room together. One of the stories that was retired was the tunnel project. And that was retired for, some various reasons, but mostly it wasn't really accurate. It just kind of showed a mountain and water. And we felt like to better tell that story is that water comes from the ground or from a mountain everywhere in the world. And that's not unique to Blanding. What's unique to Blanding is that men were able to drill through a mountain pretty much by hand. They didn't have high-tech mining equipment. They came out 6 feet apart from each other. They threw in a piece of dynamite and they made a tunnel, and they provide us with water. And so the goal moving forward and by January is to tell that story with imagery and the text that tells how we have the water and why it's unique to Blanding and how it's helped us sustain our
So this
lives.
is gonna be in which room?
So this will be in that same room, but just to the left. And so it's, if you can see my mouse, it'll be right in here. Just right there at that corner. We have plenty of space right there and we've left that there for that reason, but it'll be a nice tunnel display project
And you
there.
meant minors with an E, right? Not children. Just double checking that when
Capitalized.
just double checking that when it goes in, that we don't
did not
have.
have 15-year-olds
minors.
building it. That would make an even better story though.
And
Oh.
it could be possible.
Yeah. Little kids probably might be better minor, they're smaller, they can fit in there, take direction, they're not arguing with each other, who knows, but yes, we'll make sure that that's grammatically correct when we get it in there. If you're familiar with it, right, in this area, there's a saddle currently sitting there. And if you remember from me 2 years ago, we kind of had a whole Clarence Rogers discussion, and we own that and we have it nicely stored downstairs in an air controlled, climate controlled room. And so we'll take probably the other saddle and other displays from that, and we'll finish this as well. And it'll tie in kind of well with the cowboy Indian displays that we
The
have.
Navajo rug is on the loom.
Yeah. So that other image will kind of show that, but it's nice to have because it'll have a nice, a good cowboy Indian feel there. And that's one of the things that people love to learn about the West. And the same thing there, we'll try to get someone to tell us, with banners, this is the story of why, why is there a saddle here? And, something for people to read that they can learn about the history. And then the Gold Star.
I wonder if you, in conjunction with that, I wonder if there's a way that somebody could upload off of whatever we provide there, the Albert R. Lyman the actual, it's digitized, him telling this, his version of that story.
Yeah,
That would
You
be,
could do a
I didn't know
QR
we had
code
that.
to that website.
yeah, a QR
Easy.
code, or you could do something to that effect, would be a QR code,
And
would
then-
be the easiest.
well, and then, because there's
we have
multifacets of that, of some of that. And it would be interesting, and maybe Stan Bronson would be the guy to start with, to tell a youth perspective of some of this history. So you get both sides of this
Mhm.
and how it plays together.
Yeah,
That
well,
might-
we're up for
that might be
whatever, but
interesting.
we can definitely make that work. And I think Stan would be thrilled to death to tell that story, I guess. But we wanted something different, you know, and like I say, what's that?
Just record his songs, play 'em, and it tells the whole story right there.
You know, the one thing that we did want is that we wanted to change those displays, but we wanted to make sure that the history's there, because again, there's saddles all over the world, but why is that specific to Blanding? And that's a good story to tell, you know, the you and the,
That's
that was
almost
so,
shrunk to nothing.
yeah, we'll have to get like Winston down there to make the hole bigger or something. Professionally make the hole bigger, but
I'll have something that points toward it.
Terry's probably got a gun in his truck. We could get
Have
the
you-
hole.
Thought yet how you're going to display the verbiage to tell the story?
We would like some form of banner that hangs that's, you know, pretty prevalent for people to be able to read it in your face kind of text in that one specifically, so. This one was Robert, Councilmember Turk's idea of taking the flags that we had made for the 4th of July, getting a see-through display, taking both those, putting them back to back, and then hanging those out in the Veterans Memorial, kind of as a middle display that people walk around, so that not only are there the other families and, you know, things there, but they'll be able to see those names written out on that flag. That's another way to add,
And Lynn should have those.
yeah, add value to that. We feel like that would be a really good way to honor those families, and especially with the 4th of July Independence Day we had, it would be great to get those there. And again, the goal is to have all 3 of those displays completed by the end of 2021. And there's just some in color images of.
What am I
you know,
looking at here? Is this currently what it looks like?
This is currently what it looks like. So we added the seating, these day trip banners. This is a nice big metal print, as is this one. Then here in this kind of little nook, we did you've got the loom, there's the sheep. This whole display's got Native American, it's got the cradle board and different items displayed in that as well.
That's really nice.
And so you can see we're finding ways to, you know, some of these little things we're able to put, and so that it's still an open, clear pathway, but people are able to learn about, they'd be able to learn about both, you know, the history and the things that are fun to learn about in this region, along with the places that are, you know, must-see visit places and things that encourage people to come back. So
It looks a million times better.
Oh,
It's fantastic. I've been in there and it's starting to take shape, I think, of a more modern, but yet still retaining the history of Blanding, and a more welcome, definitely more welcoming. There's no question about that. I think and we're definitely we've made whoever, the whole team, whoever's working on this has made huge strides. It looks fantastic.
it's been a little bit of all
Like
of us. David and Brian have done a good job. They've been over there helping me move and clean, and the staff, and we've mentioned the staff at the visitor center has been, they told us what they wanted, where they want it, you know, what they want brought up, taken down.
We still have the storage downstairs.
Everything's safely stored downstairs.
Yeah, besides this.
Yeah, so there's still 2 of these big displays downstairs, and then there's ones that are like 12 by 12, and those will probably be coming back up to go with the Clarence Rogers. You know, you could put different things in there, but again, we're letting staff, you know, they have kind of that vision, and we're letting them, they're working with me to make it all work together.
How's the staff feeling? They're pretty good about it.
I think it was a change for everyone, but I promised them by July I would have something like this, that's a room with the displays back up and a little more of what they're used to. And I was a couple weeks late, but we were able to get it done in August. And I think they're feeling a lot better about it, and I haven't had nearly as many concerns in the last 2 months as we did in the first 2. So it's been good. And as you know, as we showed, I think the people visiting, we've had a few people say, "Oh, what happened to the museum and whatnot," but the rest of them are happy to have somewhere to sit. And there is a power plant out that window, or the power station, but there's also the whole east side of recapture rim and the playground and the trees and everything. So it's a nice swallow's nest. It's a nice place just to sit and enjoy the view and not feel like you've got to rush out of there. So I think it's been well received.
People are still hanging out in there and doing their thing.
Yeah, and especially now with COVID and people working from the road there, from time to time you'll see someone there for a couple hours. And again, that's kind of that's the purpose of it as well. So
I love the history room. I thought that was,
yeah, it turned out really
I wish we had
nice.
several of those, but we don't. We have one. So
But,
several more spaces.
you could consider rotating exhibits in
Yeah,
there
that's
too.
it would be a very simple.
You've got
thing to
enough
do.
stuff downstairs that maybe you say, this is what we display in July, this is what we display in June, and you rotate a couple times a year, because that actually encourages people to come back and see what's different.
Yeah.
It's work though.
Well, the nice thing is everything's involved. Like that was one of the things that we did is, despite what anyone may or may not think, we did take really good care of everything. Deb and Lynn went through everything and boxed it up so that it actually wouldn't be much work, because the display would stay the same. It's just the items in it would go from one box to another, and it'd be a pretty simple change. So I do think
And
that's
the
a good
stuff we
idea.
weren't going to keep, has it all been given back to the families?
Yeah. Yeah. So anything that wasn't really ours to keep, or that we felt wasn't, a critical part, we've contacted those families. Yeah. A lot of it went to the Guymans. Some of the random things people came and got, but Deb, it worked out because Deb had recently found all of that tracking list like a month before we made these changes, when they were cleaning during the COVID shutdown. So it worked out because we had all kinds of things. So, and we had the same things of, hey, I heard my grandma's thing was downstairs and I want it. And then you go check the list that says, well, you're not the gatekeeper of this, so you're gonna have to ask someone else because we can't give it to you. And then that,
I'm glad you had that
that
list.
is nice.
That would
It's
have been
worked out
bad.
really well.
After the meeting, there's one thing I need to check with you on.
Okay.
It's
Is it the transit thing?
yeah.
Yeah, that's displayed. That's right there.
There's, okay.
Yeah, it's
There's
back
been,
up.
there's some question as to who owns that.
Okay.
I need to just make sure that it really, regardless of who owns it, that it's available to tie into that tunnel display, that it
Okay.
doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, we'll make sure it's there. I want to say one of your aunts was on that list, but yeah.
That was the transit that was used to pilot that tunnel hole so that it would meet in the middle. Still got it.
Still got it. It's up there, so it's safe and sound.
I've been watching it.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever gave an update on Independence Day. I thought this was the best year of the 4 that I've done. I guess I've done 3 because one got canceled. I thought it was great. The band was good. Well, obviously, it sounds like we'll need to play music next year because people weren't thrilled about that. But
I actually preferred it. I like to hear the booms and hear the oohs and the ahs. I surprised myself.
yeah,
But as I sat
I
there,
don't
I
think you were
thought this
here when we
is
did
really
the
cool.
report on that, but the comment was, a lot of people wanted music for the fireworks.
Mhm.
And then I think you had a comment about traffic,
Yeah.
for the booths and things.
yeah, we had worked about layouts. That a similar theme for that's what's nice about the fall festival. It's not as big, but we can definitely work on.
And we did miss you
Layouts.
on one little thing. I was talking to some of the band and I said, there's been years when we were the second largest show in the state or the largest free show in the state. We weren't that this year. And we aren't always, but we have been. But then they announced it as being that. And I'm like, actually, that wasn't true this year, but they said it over the speakers. I'm like, well, oh, well. I mean, no harm done, but it wasn't accurate. It was still mind-blowingly
George
fantastic.
Costanza said it's not a lie if you believe it. So.
That'll be in the same
So I'll just leave it. And then the fall festival went really well. You know, I had mentioned this before, but the San Juan PAC, they received a grant, and you know, one of that, it works because that is such a family-friendly event. But if you didn't know, they provided 300 free meals at the end of that event for families. That was something that grant included. That event happens, but it doesn't happen nearly as well without them and their partnerships. Lynn Mitchell and Shauna Schroer, they make and break that event. I mean, they've been so good to work with. They're organized. They have volunteers. They followed through on everything. All of our other sponsors, Energy Fuels was great. They did the cornhole tournament, had 18 teams. They had 20 boards, and so they were able to get it done in 2.5 hours. And so everyone was thrilled because now they know next year they can come back and play, and it doesn't take all day. And anyways, it's been really good. Just this week, we found a different partner to kind of do the corn with us, and it's the same partner, but they're going to provide the corn and do some different things there. And they asked if they could do that. And so it'll be bigger and better next year. I think we had close to, you know, probably 1,000 to 1,100 attendees. I think we had close to like 15 pumpkins left, and why can't I think of her name? Nicole Frankum took those for her preschool or kindergarten class, and so it ended up benefiting the community. And I'm sure there were a bunch of kids that were super happy at school today. They got to paint some more pumpkins, so double win for them in Energy Fuels.
Dutch oven contest, 9?
We had 7.
7?
That
I
went.
ate 9 different potatoes, so.
Yeah.
It was great.
So there was plenty of Dutch ovens next year. That's one of the things that, you know, I kind of threw together, and it worked, and it was fun.
Yeah.
And I hope next year we're going to try to get a couple different sponsors. And we've kind of decided, you know, Brett was part of that, and he, you know, we want to do a meat, a potato, and a dessert next year, and get some big prizes and make that like a real big part of the event. You know, it's a Dutch oven days. We've got to have more Dutch oven based
But
activities.
the first year we had
So
1 or 2, so like that,
Yeah,
that was,
yeah,
I thought
so
that
we
was
did-
great.
we had 1, we got
So good.
7 or 9, and yeah, hopefully we'll have like 30 next year.
Yeah.
It was just fun to see that it's, you know, there's been kind of this thing trying to emerge, and it looks like it's emerging as a second signature event.
Yeah,
And that was kind of, that's what people have envisioned when we've tried to do fall things before. And it's finally coalescing, and there's so many people who have done so much towards that. You can't even,
Yeah.
you can't even begin to name everybody who's made some kind of contribution that's helped keep this rolling to where now it's happening. It's starting to become that vision.
yeah, and I mean, I know this year, I'm not in this world, but I mean, someone let us use 40 bales of hay, and it sounds like if 10 of those gotten destroyed, like it would have been an issue, but he was willing to work with us. Obviously, for a little bit of a price, but I mean, hay wasn't in abundance when there's no water. So, you know, things like that. I mean, a lot, Cade Lewis brings the straw down, same feet. It's not like he was able to grow a ton of straw this year. And so we've got good partners, and it just makes that event so much easier. When I send the text, I'm like, we good? Yes, I'll be there. You know, it makes everything so much better. So really happy with it. And then the last thing I've got, we've got a couple things with the entry signs. Screen share.
I was gonna say, I did see a few people from Monticello there, and I think that's what you said our push needs to be, to get more people from
Yeah,
the surrounding
yeah.
area there.
Yeah, it would be really nice to get an additional 800 attendees from Monticello. And part of that's probably because I think, you know, this year, I'm sure it made a lot more of an impact on social media, and people saw what it was, you know, but I think people have been a little confused, like, is it kind of a small event, big event? And we did have 4 vendors from Monticello, which was really nice. We did have a ton of vendors, but not a ton of attendees.
Good.
So been working with YesCo. A few months ago, we went over some of these signs, but the kind of final design that we looked at and that we wanted to run by you guys is this. Scroll down. Sorry, it's kind of freezing on me.
Gosh, those really do need to be up.
I'm gonna, there we go. So it's
That's so much
dark.
cleaner right there. Yeah.
It's dark here. One of the designs we went with was it's a box. So there's currently 4 pillars. This box would just sit over those pillars and tie into them. So we don't have to like, we might have to trim them, but we don't have to like rip those out. That saves time and money. But the nice thing about this is that we can kind of customize the black part of that. So we can make it, it'll be in a very high grade aluminum. And then they use a print on the aluminum that can withstand hot and cold temperatures, and it's
Fading.
like it's in essence an image printed onto that aluminum that can withstand the elements. And so the one thing that we thought would look pretty nice along with that natural rock, and Ryan, who I've been working with, he kind of had this idea as well, was some form of a darker wood. So it looks like it's a wood paneling back there. But it would be a darker color, like a darker brown or a darker gray that matches with that rock color, and kind of give the appearance of it looking, handmade
Organic.
and organic and, something real. And then the white lettering and the blue and yellow mountain that you see, that will be that'll be a metal cutout that's then brought out 1 inch or 2 from that background. So this fits the budget. We feel like it's going to be the easiest to install and the longest lasting. Yesco does this, and they're the ones that had more of the extravagant ones that we looked at previously. They had, big, and anyways, he assured me that this would last, that it would look good. And
What kind of warranty would there be on that?
most importantly, is fit the budget. I don't have an answer for the warranty, and we can get that. I can get it tomorrow.
What the budget for it?
17,000, I believe, somewhere in there, 17 to 18,000, where they can fit it in there. And they've been good. They've worked with us. He's given me 3 or 4 different designs, but he felt like, especially with both of our signs on the right-hand side when you're driving in, that darker background on that rock will really pop. And we recently redid the LED lights down there. It'll look really nice and a little more modern, but organic and better than what we currently have. So
That's great. I like it a lot.
Dave, did you have anything to add to that? Are you good?
Sorry, it's been breaking up. No, I think that's, you've covered it all. So I think that's coming in and out.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess the only thing I would add overall is you can see from Pratt's presentation, he's been doing a lot of work, and he's really taken point on a lot of these projects, like the visitor centers. There's a lot of people that Pratt has taken and discussed the vision that you share, are charged and gotten a lot of great things done. So he deserves a lot of credit. So.
Kudos to Pratt.
Stuff.
Okay, moving on then, presentations, Elaine. Thanks for wading through all of this other stuff. We could have moved you up, but we were so interesting. We thought you'd just love to be here longer.
Long meeting, so thank you for giving me the time. I don't have an official presentation, but
Okay.
I just wanted to come down and introduce myself. My name is Elaine Gisler, and I started with San Juan County as the Economic Development and Visitor Services Director. I'm in my 5th week this week, and I was prior to that, I was the Grand County Travel Council Executive Director and Economic Development Director. So I am thrilled and honored to be in San Juan County, and looking forward to all of the wonderful things that can come, and no 3 million people aren't going to follow me down here from Grand County. And I'm currently on a tour of doing listening and learning, and I had one in Bluff yesterday, and Pratt organized the one today here. understand what is on the minds of the local residents and what, what can we do to help you to just bring your community to where you want it to be. And I think the exciting thing for San Juan County is that the way I look at it coming from Grant County is that we can plan our destiny here. We can make happen what we want to have happen. So, a lot of people are like, oh, she's from Grand County and we're going to be just like Moab. No, you'll never be like Moab. We don't have the elements that they have up there. And we're in a much better situation where we can actually strategize and plan for each individual community to be what they want to be. So I look forward to working on economic development and some diversification, and also to help working with Brett on tourism. I've got some ideas and helping to work with Brett maybe on, I'm like, could we make this a regional airport here? The landing would be a perfect place. So as I'm learning and listening and learning, I'm trying to, assess what might help our communities as we move forward, and looking for grant opportunities and anything that we can do. We had Michael Bryant down here from Southeast Utah Association of Local Governments. He was meeting with us, and we want to get just more engaged in how we can help the residents and help to make the community successful and really what, bring forward what you all want to be with our help out of San Juan County. So I'm happy to be here, Brett spent all day with me today. Brett spent all day with me today and took me around. And I have been a visitor to San Juan County many times. My husband and I, living in Moab, would come down here. And we are we bought a home in Monticello, so we will be moving to San Juan County. So I'm excited to be here.
So, yeah, I mean, you've got a big job ahead of you because you're stepping in behind Natalie.
Yes.
And so enormous shoes to fill, and what she did, and she understood so much about the local perspective. And I like what you said about communities that can differentiate themselves, because we do have the three major communities, and they could be very different and equally vibrant in their own unique way. And so it doesn't have to be a big homogeneous thing, but learning and understanding what that local perspective and what does that community want to become. For example, Blanding has always stressed education and being a service center, and you can see that as you get the tour around the community. Those things are happening because it's been one of our focuses. But there's a lot of other things around that. But so as you kind of identify what does a community want, how does the community want to brand itself, and what does it want to portray, and how do we do that in an effective way that people understand. But the thing I wrote down there was different but equally vibrant. Yeah. And so
it's true. I mean, and I view the communities that are here, larger and smaller, are unique. And you can't, not one size fits everybody. It's just not how it works. What works in Monticello isn't going to work down here. And so you really have to take the community and the residents and understand what they're, and the leaders of the community, which you are, and what you're looking for. What does our future look like? What is our destiny? And plan that out and work to achieve that. So, and listening to, to the residents, whether you think you want to listen, or you sort of halfway want to listen, because you're dealing from a different point of view, and you are leaders of the community and visionaries. So I think it's important. Every community offers something different, but that's the key. That's the key essence to San Juan County, that you go from Monticello, you come to Blanding, and we have so many cultural and the indigenous people. We have such a story to tell in this corner of Utah, in this corner of the world, that not the other communities, counties in Utah don't have that. So we're very lucky to have what we have here. And I think bringing that sort of and educating people around the world with the history of the communities here, what was here, and that you want, your town to sort of remain, but sort of grow. And I think I just came from IPW, which was an international show. We met with 50 international reps, and we talked a lot about the difference between, you've got sort of things going on up north with the parks and some chaos, but then you come down here and it's completely different. You've really got culture, and you've got so much rich history down here, and that's what I hope that we can, deliver to the visitors and to people. And tourism does, is a form of economic development, as we know. So I know that we can sort of maybe attract someone who has the means and the vision to say, hey, I want to live and bring my business to San Juan County. So that's what we're gonna try to do. So I'm here to help and support Pratt and everyone in San Juan County, and do my best. And I admire Natalie. She is my counterpart a lot with her own projects, together. And I think we have the same work ethic and vision. So I feel, it was a tough decision for me to make to come here because, being in a high profile place like Grand County with, the spotlight on everything there. But coming down here, it is so incredible what you have here. It's so amazing. And I really see that everything you have, we just need to make the world understand what an opportunity, and to educate them on everything that's here. So I said, if they are going down if they're going down the highway, if they only knew it was to the left and right, and that's what we hope to explain to visitors, and to hopefully economic development people that are interested to bring their businesses here. So,
Well, one thing I thought Natalie was exceptional as well. And one thing I appreciated about her is that she always made Blanding feel like part of San Juan County. Sometimes when you live in Monticello, it's easy to focus more on, where you are and where you work every day. And because they're the county seat, it feels a little more sometimes important, but she always made Bluff feel important, Blanding feel important. And I really appreciated that about her. So just so you're aware, that was a concern. It's part of the reason why we have Pratt's positions, because previous economic development directors made us feel like we weren't important. And
no, I'm on the same page. I'm on the same page with Natalie, because I see each community being entirely different, and each community has something to offer. So you're not, it's not one size fits all and one thing is good for everyone. It just isn't that way, not in my eyes. So, I've got a background. I spent a lot of time traveling around the world. I've been, vice president of sales for companies. I've lived in New York City, worked in New York City. I have a lot of experience.
Don't want to open with that.
Marketing. and so I understand the differences in communities, and I would never, I think you have so much to offer here, more than people realize, from a cultural and historical standpoint. So yeah, so I'm excited. We're glad to have you.
Thanks for
to be
coming.
here. Thank you very much. And I appreciate Jack spending all day with me
It's a
today.
pleasure.
Thank you. And feel free, I have this card, pipeline. Just feel free to contact me if you have any concerns or anything that you suggestions. I'm always open, never be offended, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.
We're checking out.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item up, trailers on city streets.
Right, so I had a conversation with Chief of Police the day after the hit and run on the count, on the Blue Mountain Road. He knows that I'm very passionate about safety, and since we were talking safety, he just told me that he's had a number of residents concerned about people parking like camp trailers or enclosed trailers right next to busy intersections that then people can't see around those. And it's creating a safety issue. And so he's bringing it as our chief of police, as our head safety person. And I've seen the issue too. I don't have a solution. I'm bringing a problem. I'm wondering if any of you feel like it's a problem too, if it's something that we need to address with an ordinance. I mean, I don't love the city having to ordinance everything.
My question is it already an ordinance?
It is not. We do have an ordinance in the winter that you're not supposed to park on city streets for snow removal, but we do not have
We enforce that.
to some degree.
And do we
yeah.
have an ordinance about, I think we have an ordinance about camp trailers being used for alternative dwelling sites. We might be able to address that within this because I think some of the times it's for that.
So basically, have any of you had anyone approach you about it? Is it something that you're concerned about? Is it something that we should have the chief do some research on ordinances in other cities? Do we want to go down that path?
My question is it a issue with one specific area? Is it Main Street? Is it?
It's
Because I
all
haven't
over
seen that
town.
happen on Main Street several
Yeah,
times.
places where-
Is it one area? Could we just ask people to move and try that and see if it works without creating an ordinance?
I'm familiar with a number of places near where I am, and I live on a very busy street because it's on the way to the elementary school. But I'm also right next to Center Street, and a lot of times people park right there on Center Street by those intersections facing both ways, and you can't see around them because they park there to eat at A&W, and there's not really parking at A&W. So that's one that I'm familiar with, but chief of police has had specific complaints all over town from other residents.
Wow.
And he's actually getting it from people that like to walk, that then if we don't have sidewalks, then they have to walk around those trailers and they're out in the middle of the road and people don't see them. So their concern is from a walking standpoint, but I've seen it be an issue from a driving standpoint, traffic standpoint.
Yeah.
So it is an issue in those couple different ways.
If they're parked by an intersection, wouldn't that fall under the same category as shrubs or fences that block the vision? That'd be a question I'd ask.
Well, that would be a good question, and Brett might have some, because the zoning stuff with sightlines doesn't really address the parking outside of those properties.
It doesn't because it's based on the land use, but you do have that site triangle, and what Katie's talking about is these vehicles are
It's an
parking
extension of the
in that
sight.
site triangle and blocking the visibility of acceptable speed to an intersection, so.
And I guess mid-block can be an issue too, but intersections obviously pose a lot greater potential for problems. I wonder if we want to throw this idea of looking at the site triangles that are involved in the land use and see if there's an application, maybe the chief gets some information and the planning commission can gather that, throw around some ideas and bring us back something. It's just my first thought is gather more information and see what's out there, if there are solutions to this kind of an
You
idea.
probably have to work with JJ because the traffic thing is kind of a little bit different animal, but they might have a continuation of the site triangle for traffic.
Okay. So just as far as the planning commission, then they're only gonna be land use, I get that, but they might have information that deals with those lines of sight that would be helpful to somebody looking at it from a traffic perspective.
In the meantime, while you're doing all this research, if we could do some social media posts off and on, just to remind people to pay attention where they're
Just-
parking and how it might impact those
Yeah,
intersections.
just be aware and stay back from the intersections.
Let's do that, you know, we've done
And some of it's whether they're long-term or short-term. The trailer pops up somewhere for a few days and then it's gone. That, you know, it's sometimes I think people start to feel different about it if something's parked there continually or long periods of time. Maybe it poses more of a problem. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
I was thinking we should just deputize Kim and she can rustle them up.
Drive around town all day.
Yes.
I'm concerned that he has no recourse.
And again,
Because
Correct.
there's stores, I know there was at least 3 times this year that I've tried to pull out on Main Street with trailers parked. Right, I can't, and I'm afraid I'm gonna die. I mean, honestly, I have no idea what I'm pulling into, so. But there's nothing he can do about that because right
Well,
now,
for sure, you can't do it on Main Street because that's a highway.
yeah.
That's UDOT. But there's nothing, he can't go to someone and say, could you move your trailer? Because he doesn't have any, he can't say, because city ordinance, this says that you can't do that.
So, in other cities, a lot of times, the fire chief, with street widths and site triangles, a lot of times it's the fire chief that gives input on that. So when development is being done, he gives not only input on, buildings and fire safety, but also accessibility for emergency vehicles and line of sight. And so I can maybe talk to our fire chief too, and maybe reach out to some other cities and see kind of what their recommendations are, what they're doing. But that's been my experience in the past.
I would appreciate that. I prefer that we make decisions data-based, and and I think we've had some good discussion here. So if you'll talk further with chief of police and with the fire chief, and I would say even with Brett too, just for kind of what planning and zoning does for land use, I think that we'll have some better data to make decisions, right? Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
agree.
Okay, very good. Energy Fuels Raw Water contract, Dave.
So this is a annual contract that has been renewed every year. I guess prior to it being renewed annually, there was a long-term contract. I guess this was just sent to the mill as a letter, and the mill signed it, and then the mill signed it and the city manager signed it. But I checked with our attorney, and he and I both felt that this is something that should be approved by motion through the council of this sale. Right now, at this time, we decided to move forward with the contract as is, with the exception of that final, I think it's bullet point number 6, basically saying that the city and the mill will touch base just to make sure water availability. But one discussion that I did have with the mill was that, and even they felt we needed to look into this more, is before next year, we're going to look into our consistency of policy and rates regarding raw water. Because there's definitely some inconsistencies with raw water. Culinary, we've got down pretty pat, but staff and myself have looked and found that we have some different rates that aren't quite equitable. And so we want to take the time over this next year to look at it, come to the council with some good recommendations. And even Logan with the mill mentioned to me that he felt like there needed to be some more consistent policies with how that's done. So
Where does their rate fall on the higher, low end of?
Way cheap.
It's way
way low. So for example, they use about 150 acre feet of raw water. And the school district and others use significantly less, but pay. So the school district, even our own city parks, the LDS Church and all these others that use raw water, we'll just say pay significantly more. And as we look into this and evaluate it more and evaluate all the nuances involved of the history, we'll bring some recommendations to the council. But we didn't want to be hasty in our recommendations. We really wanted to consider everything first before we brought all the numbers and made recommendations. And plus we wanted to give the mill time over this next year, if changes are made, that they can prepare adequately for that.
I would make one suggestion too, because this has been renewing in the fall. And with the addition of that, the bullet point 6, unless everybody has a really good crystal ball, we don't know in the fall what the water availability is going to be. So maybe we project to renew this like on April 1 every year.
So that's, I talked about, and I don't understand all the rationale behind it, but there's a specific reason why the mill has to renew in the fall and not in April, because I agree that would be more ideal. And that's why we put in that bullet point 6 that discussions will be had both before contract renewal and at that April time to discuss availability. But Mayor, I think you're right on point with kind of what staff and I are looking at as well, and the discussions that I've had with the mill too.
Okay, well, we've got time until April to kind of have that conference and look at the rate structures and have an agreement with the mill that then would roll into place in the fall.
Right. And one of the main things that we really wanted was just creating consistency, not only with the current customer base, but for example, what if we had I'm just making something up. What if we had a data center want to come and build here in Blanding? Data centers use a significant amount of water. And what if they were to say, well, we want that same rate that we've been giving historically to the mill? And so while there's nothing like that necessarily on the horizon now, we just want to create a policy that's consistent for both now and moving forward that everybody would be comfortable with.
So this this be something we go land on our project list that we follow up on and make sure we're on top of it, right?
Yeah.
Review. Okay.
In fact, I'll add this and the discussion about the trailers that was mentioned earlier. So.
Okay.
Is there really enough water to sell to them?
There is, and Terry can speak more to that. There is. It's just where that water source is coming from, the cost to the city to then distribute it, etc. And that's some of the stuff we're looking at.
Are they the largest?
Terry, would you say otherwise?
Yeah, so November 1st, the first 800 acre feet above conservation pool and recapture will be Blanding City's water. And there'll be 550 or so out there. You're going to lose some to seepage, maybe a little bit of evaporation over the winter, but we'll have more than enough for the 150 acre feet from the mill.
Okay.
Even with a bad winter, we should be able to have that out there.
Because the water year resets then?
Yes.
Okay.
So one point that Kim brought up that I hadn't thought to mention yet is the other thing to consideration is with regard to the sale of water to the mill, there's no compensation for when rates are increased based on a drought year, whereas they are with everyone else. So that's another thing that hasn't been taken into consideration. And so again, there's a lot of nuances and we want to be fair to all considered. And so that's why we wanted to take our time, just move forward with the contract essentially as is and take our time to evaluate how the policy should look.
Okay, thank you. To adopt this current year's contract, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the September 28, 2021 contract with Energy Fuels for the sale of raw water. And I'll just add in there that we are going to look at the price of the water and the use in drought years and make sure that it is equitable for everyone for next year.
Okay, Bowers, Nielsen, all in favor?
Okay.
Little work on here. Product. All right, and no closed session that we need.
I'll make the motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Perkins and Turk, are there any questions on
No.
all in favor?
I.
Okay, thank you.